few months ago, I had this rear wheel powder coated because the original coating was all peeling off, and it's been fine ever since. So it's only a few months, but I'm happy with that. So I thought it was about time that I did the front wheel. Because at the moment, the front wheel doesn't match the back, although it doesn't actually need much doing to it. There's a couple of very minor nicks here and there, but basically the coating is sound. So the only real reason for doing this is to have it match the rear wheel. The tyre, the reason I've done it now is that the tyre is getting slightly dodgy, so it's not bad by any means. There's still a bit of, well, there's a good half a mil before it's onto the wear indicators. But on the other hand, I don't want to push it to the limit. I'd rather get a new tyre sooner rather than later. So that was the prompt to do it now. Because what I didn't realise, or didn't think through, is that doing the front wheel is a lot more difficult than the back. For a start, it's got two discs, which are a right pain to get off. I've just broken a Torx tool getting one of these out. Luckily, they all came out. All the disc screws have come out, except for one, which snapped off the end of the Torx. So that's a bit of a pain. I have to get a new one of those. But luckily, I had a set of these wearer Allen key type things, which worked fine. Got out with that. The other thing that needs to come across is this speed sensor. And finally, another complication is the bearings. They're going to have to come out as well. So there's nothing wrong with them that I'm aware of. But I need to work out how to get those out. So yeah, all in all, it's not quite as straightforward as the rear wheel. Anyway, I'll press on. And having started, having got this far, I might as well carry on. So this spacer is on the sensor side, on the speed sensor. So I have to remember that. Obviously some kind of seal here. I'm going to look up the manual and work out how to get this bearing apart. Okay, I've just managed to prise out this seal. It's in pretty good nick. It's got some ribs on this side, and it's fairly shallow. So this is, which side is this? This is the non-speed sensor side. So that's that. So I believe these seals are different. Let's try this one. Just using a bit of cardboard to protect this. There we go. It looks the same to me. What's the difference, do you think? Allegedly they are different. They're different diameter, of course. Is that the answer? No, it looks the same. I've already forgotten which is which. This one was the speed sensor one, wasn't it? Which has got some rust in it, interestingly. So what is the difference? They're different part numbers, I believe. Is that different diameter? No? I'll have a look on the... see if there's any part numbers written on here, but they look identical, but so there are different part numbers on the BMW site. Looking at these with a magnifying glass, they are actually the same part number. So they appear to be identical, which is slightly worrying because the on the BMW website it suggests that there's two different part numbers, and I've actually ordered two different part numbers. So hopefully they turn up okay. We'll see. Right. So this is the sensor side, which goes this way. So the wheel rotates that way. So again, as on the rear, the sensor trails some sort of sealant on there. It looks like it's been on from new. Okay, so the last thing to do is to get the bearings out. says in the manual that you need to heat up the casting to 100 degrees C in my manual. Hopefully I can get a bit hotter than that. I'm thinking I'll use a hot air gun, give that a go. I've got one of these blind bearing extraction tools which has various adapters. Basically it's got 4 small, medium and large. This one is 20 mil. The bore of the bearings is 20 mil. So this one is just over 20, so that slips in quite well to the bearings. So I've assembled this screw thing. There's a washer and this spacer. So essentially this goes into the bearing, clips behind it, spreads out when you tighten up the screw, drives a wedge into this end, which spreads and hardens up the end there. So hopefully that will drag out the bearing. Okay, so here's the bearing. As I say, this size of the tool does fit in here. Takes a bit of that's behind the bearing now. So if I tighten up this thread, which could do with some oil by the way, I'd better still some grease I suppose, but oil will do for now. So that should spread the tool, and let me drag it out. Right, that's tight. Tight enough, I think. So meanwhile I can put something on here. It only comes with these 2, which is nowhere near big enough. So I need something to spread the load onto this. How am I going to do that? See what I've got. So I found this washer which I've kept from somewhere. I've no idea where. It's got a sort of bore race type groove in it. Anyway, I've cut a piece out with the angle grinder. Okay, so that fits now. And it's big enough to spread the load onto the wheel. So that's all good. So if I stick this on as well, I think that would drag the bearing out. This washer came with this tool. So normal heat gun, 1200 watts, this one apparently. It seems to be going somewhere. Oh, no, something gave as it pulled through the inner race. Ah, that's a pain. It obviously pulled through the inner race. That was what the giving way was. Not sure whether that's moved or not. I think it's pulled through again. Something's moving. Which was the bearing or the tool? That's bent the washer. That is bent. And this is pulling out at an angle. That is too hot to touch. No, I don't think that's moved at all. Yeah, I mean that tip is just completely crap. I think what I probably need is a ball bearing down there. If I flatten off this end and even make it a slight dimple, So a ball bearing in there is more likely to work, I think. So I don't think that's moved at all. Still hot, but yeah, this tool is crap. There's the short answer. The ball bearings. I've got a few in here. That one looks a good size. That one's too big. I think that inside there and this end would give me a better chance of expanding this part of the tool effectively without that tip digging in. Because say this tip is just completely chewed up. It obviously picks up on the edges of these 4 segments and just digs into it. So if I grind that flat and maybe we'll say a slight dimple, that ball on the end in there should do the job. Let's give that a try. This ball bearing, by the way, is 47/28, 3/8. This is a fatal flaw. This is too long now, so I need to shorten this back. If not one thing, it's another. Right, so I've shortened that by about 3/8 of an inch. See if that fits in here now. It certainly screws in now. So if I get this in here, right, let's try again. Well, finally. So, yeah, that's the fatal flaw with this cheap tool. Is that cone at the end of this main threaded spindle. Which is rubbish. But that trick with the ball bearing has obviously done the job. Let's get this off. Yeah, well, that's hot. That'll be hot too. Right, so see the bearing has come right up to the top now. So I think I should be able to get behind it with a drift and knock it out from the other side. There we go. Whoop, there we go. So let's just see what it did at this end. Still quite warm. Oh yeah, you can see a little dimple in there where the ball has made its mark. And that's absolutely fine, is it? Oh, it's got a couple of, actually you can see the four marks in the end where it's picked up on the, that's obviously snapped off as well. Wow, these tools are absolute crap. But it's done the job, that's the important thing. Alright, finally, all bearing out. And here's the spacer. Okay, so there is a shoulder on here built into the casting, so That's interesting. Okay, so that's a what? 7/8. 1 1/8. Sorry. So let's give that a try. Put him back to front, so we've got a nice blunt end. So I should probably heat this up. Never mind. Is that moving? Yes, it is. Goodness for that. The second bearing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with these bearings. They've done 30,000 miles, but they feel perfectly smooth. But it seems a shame to put back in old ones, so I'll put the new ones in. Obviously the seals need replacing, but I've got those as well, so no hassle. So next is to get this to the powder coating company. I hope they can protect this bore. Looks like I've bashed that slightly. I might just give that a little kiss with a file. Otherwise, it looks fine. So this video was going to be about the whole process of powder coating the front wheel, but it's turning out to be too long given the issues with the getting the bearings out. So I'm going to leave it here. But in terms of a kind of review of this blind bearing puller, it's dirt cheap. So it's less than £7, I think. I'll put a link up. But I mean, you get lots of stuff, lots of different sizes, but it's absolute rubbish, really, in terms of the quality of the materials. And this is the one that broke. The bit did turn up in the end on the floor, so that was just snapped clean off. It is a casting, I think, and it's just not strong enough. So I don't know quite why that was stressed to the point that it broke, but obviously it was. But the other thing is the quality of these points on the end of these things, which I say is supposed to spread these four sectors out, or three in these cases, apart to grip behind the bearing. But that is just completely soft, so it failed at the first attempt, which is why I ended up putting that flat on the end. See a little dimple in there now as well, and using that ball bearing and pushing the ball bearing in behind this split end to spread it that way, which I say worked okay. The ball bearing survived reasonably well. It's got a few marks on it, but so it did the job. So that's the important thing for me, is it did actually do the job. The other thing, which is obviously not up to scratch, is these tubes. They're very thin walled, and this one started to buckle. If you can see that, it's not a huge amount, but it is distinctly out of round, and there's marks on here where it's dug in. So yeah, again, not brilliant. Wouldn't last very long. And the other thing was they didn't supply something like this. So trying to get a bearing out that's the size of the BMW ones, then this thing is useless. There's nothing for it to press against. You get a washer for the top end for the screw to go through, but this lower end is hopeless, really. Luckily, I had this nice thick washer that I was able to use, and that worked really well. But what it came with isn't really enough to do the job. So yeah, so I'm happy that it did it for me, but I wouldn't recommend buying one of these, and I wouldn't buy one again. So I'll get the wheels gone to the powder coaters now, but they're talking about 2 weeks turnaround. So I'll maybe do another short video on getting the wheel back together and putting the bearings back in. The new bearings. New bearings are here with seals. So yeah, I'll stick those in and get the bike back on the road. Thanks for watching.